In this video, we will learn how to work with dialogues. When you have used Android applications, you have seen different dialogues popping up. A very common dialog is to select a date where a calendar pops up and you select a date. So in today, we will take the same example and let us run our application. So currently, if you see that in our application, uh, the date is disabled, but we will enable it, and when we press this button, a dialog should appear where we are able to choose the date. So this is today's task, and we will do it. Now in Android, when the Android moved to the newer version, the way dialog was presented has changed than the way dialog is presented in the older Android devices. And in order to compensate for it, the app compat library which is available provides us a consistent view of the dialog. So before moving forward, we would like to add the app compat library in our program. So the way to do that is similar as we did earlier. We go to file, we go to project structure, we go to the module app, we go to dependencies, we press the plus button, we press library dependency, and we choose the app compat v7 colon 24.2.1 and we press OK. This is added and that's fine. So this step we have done multiple times, so I hope you do not mind it. Now currently our program is being built again. So let it get built, and then we will start working with how to add a dialog to our date button. So in order to do that, we will be doing few things. Number one, that we will be creating a fragment class, and then we will be building an LR dialog, and then we will be using a fragment manager to add that dialog on the screen. So let's get started. So first thing we should do is to add some resources. We will go into our strings.xml and we can add a new resource called, I will just copy and change, so control C, control V, string name, because we want to choose the date. We'll give it the name date picker title, and the value would be date of reporting, date of report. So that's something which we just did. We added a resource. Now let's start adding the code which will allow us to pick a date through a dialog. So the first step, let's create a fragment. We will call it a dialog fragment, and that's through this dialog fragment we will implement our functionality. So I'm adding a new class of type Java class. I'm giving it a name date picker fragment, and I do extend dialog fragment. This is fine, and now I override the method. There is a method called onCreateDialog. That's the method which we need to override. So public dialog on create dialog bundle saved instance state comes in, and we do nothing but we just create an LR dialog dot builder get activity dot set title, just the resources which we had just created, string dot date picker title dot set position, set positive button as Android and Android dot r dot string dot okay. So this is a string already given to us, and then we call the create, and that's it. So this is our date picker fragment for the time being. So this is a very simple code, and as you can understand, we are just setting a title, we are setting a positive button. You will see the meaning of it very soon, and we are creating it. So as of now, our set positive button, which normally takes a string and an object that implements a listener. So for that, we are currently passing null because we will be adding this listener later. And for the string resource, we are just passing uh, Android string OK that is available to us. So then we call the create, which returns us the configured alert dialog instance. Now, now let us go to our original code and try to show this alert dialog. So let's go to the report fragment where we want to use it, and we already have some code here. We will be adding more code so that we can see our dialog. Final string and dialog date equal to dialog date, and then first thing that we have to do is that earlier we had enabled the button to be false. So yeah, so here is it. So we had enabled it to be false. Now we remove this line and we say date button dot set on click listener, because now we want to respond when somebody clicks to it. And how do we want to respond is simply view dot on click listener. So again, I am making use of anonymous class at override, and we will just override the on click method. Public void on click method is taking a view. So let us continue developing our on click. First we need a fragment manager. Make sure that your fragment manager is of type v4 app fragment manager, because this is what you have added in the date picker fragment class. So let's go back and continue with our on click method. Where is it? Yes, manager equal to get fragment manager. And then the next thing that we have to create is the dialog. So we create date picker fragment dialog equal to new date picker fragment, and then all we have to do is dialog dot show manager and the dialog date. Okay, so I made a typo here. So yes, so now our basic dialog will come up. Let us run our program and check what does it show. So we run it. Let's click on a report. Now you can see that the button is enabled. I click on the button and I see a dialog box. There is nothing much here. We will now put some material here, essentially a calendar, so that we can pick a date. But the basic functionality has already been implemented. Now let us start working towards set the content of this dialog. So we will do it. um, so we are basically going to change the widget, the date picker that we are using. So we are going to add a widget into it, and ideally that should show us a calendar. So that's the objective of our work here. And because we need to display something, we will have to create a layout file, and then we will have to use the functions that are defined by Android to use it. So first, we are going to create a layout file in the layout folder only, and we will call this layout file as dialog date. Dialog underscore date. So we will put the root element as date picker. Yeah, press OK. So now as you can see that the basic date picker has been created. Because we will be using it in our program, we have to definitely add an ID at plus ID slash dialog underscore date picker. So give the ID the layout width and height. Instead of match parent, I'll make it wrap parent, because we don't want it to hold space anything more than what it needs. Now I will add another attribute here. I will explain you later once we have a display that why we needed it. So Android calendar view shown equal to false. And now this currently looks counterintuitive, but soon you will understand the reason. So as you see that there are some issues here. Layout date picker does not set the required layout height or automatically add all missing attributes. So this looks fine now. You can see how it will roughly look, but yeah. So let's move forward, and we have to now add this date picker to our alert dialog. We have to now add this date picker to our alert dialog. So we go here, and as you will see that earlier we had said only set title, set positive button, and create. Now we will have to add a view here, the view which we just created. So first things first, let's create the view here. And this is nothing but layout inflator from get activity dot inflate and our latest layout dialog date. That's it. Now only thing that we need to do is here do dot set view, and in here we have to make sure import class view. Oh, so yes, now we have created a layout and we added here. So now let's run it again. Click on any report, click on the button. So we are getting an error. Now let us find out why we are getting an error. Okay, so now let's look at why are we getting error. So let's go to the date picker fragment class. Uh, okay, so this is the error. We added the view. This was to be in the on create dialog and not outside it. So let me put it in the on create dialog and let me run the program again. So we create on a report, create, okay, yes. So now we see our calendar. So as you can see that we did some work and after that we are able to see the calendar. Uh, so this is how we show a dialog, and in the dialog we set up a calendar to be shown in between the before the buttons that were pressed. So basically that is because we added the set view here, and now we will see that how to pass the data back from this to our fragment. Why we want to say this is that because if you run it, I choose for example 12, I press OK, but it still says 2, so the 12 has not been updated because I have not been able to pass a data back. So now we will develop the rest of the code which will pass the data back to it. So one more thing, the calendar view that we are seeing here is a view with material design. This was introduced after Android Lollipop. If you are running on older device, then your view will be different. And this, when the modification was made in Android Lollipop, they ignored they ignored this particular field. So that's why we can set it to false and it doesn't impact. So yeah, so now let's go back and start adding some code so that once we choose a date, the date is reflected when we go back. Now, as earlier, we will again be using intent to pass the data between the two fragments. Here our two fragments are the date fragment and the report fragment. So let us be ready with intent and XPass again so that we can pass some data back and forth between them. So let's go to our date picker fragment class, and this time we will add few fields to it. So the first thing, as usual with all the extras, I am going to add a string, and let's say this is the date equal to the value is date. We can come, then we are going to create date picker and date picker public static date picker fragment new instance. We have done this multiple times, so now you can understand without me explaining every step. We will be using this method to create bundle works. So now again I am getting the bundle where I would be storing the information. This is similar to the last video in which we used the same method. Args dot put serializable arg date date and then date picker fragment equal to new date picker fragment dot set arguments args, then we just return the fragment. So this is our static method to return the fragment. That's what you'll be using. We are getting a error here. I will press alt enter, and when I press alt enter on date, we get two options: date java.util and java.sql. So I will press java.util, and the error is now gone. So now we need to go to the report fragment, and we will have to remove the earlier code which we used to create the date picker fragment, because now we are choosing a different method to create the date picker fragment. So let me go here. Let me try to find out the code. So it is was in on create view. So yeah, so here it was. Here earlier we were uh, creating a date picker fragment dialog by calling new date picker fragment. Now we won't be doing it. We would be using instead the static method that we want. So let's say date picker fragment equal to dialog equal to just take fragment dot new instance dot m report dot get date. So yes, so now we are passing the date from here to there, and from there we will select a date and pass it back here. So this is a two-way communication, as you can see. But now we are not using anything new. We have already used many of these things earlier, so things should be easier for you to understand. Now let's go back to the date picker fragment, and in again in the on create dialog, let's add some more code. So date equal to date, because now we need to retrieve some values from the bundle that we are receiving. Let's serialize label or date calendar equal to calendar dot get instance calendar dot set time, pass it the date that we just created, and then let's take out the year. Calendar dot get uh, calendar dot oh, only thing is like calendar dot here. Same thing we will do for month and day. In month equal to calendar dot get calendar dot month calendar dot oh, oh, dot month, and then for the day day of month. Okay. Now we will choose date picker equal to date picker v. So v is our view dot find view by id, r dot id dot uh, dialog date picker. Now we are looking at what the layout that we had created, and date picker dot init year month day null. Yes. So let's quickly run it and see that what changes it brings. When I create, now you see that it's already selecting a date. So it is initialized the date picker, and then we will add some more code to transfer the data back. So currently we are only showing it which date to show, and later on we will transfer the data back, we will return the data back. Now, as you know that when we need to pass the data between the activities, we used to say set activity for result, and then we used to get back the data. We will be doing similar thing, because in the earlier case of activities, the activity manager keeps track of the relationship that which activity needs to pass data. So we will try to do the same thing with the fragment. So we need to pass the data from the date picker fragment to the report fragment. So here our report fragment would be the target fragment of date picker fragment. Now this is what we have to ensure in our code in order to pass the data. So there is a method called set target fragment which enables it. So we will now be using set target fragment to enable this functionality. So let's go to the report fragment, and first some basic work, which is nothing but another private static final int request date equal to 0, and then we set the target. So in the on create view, if you remember, for the date button we had done a set on click listener date picker fragment dialog. So here we were creating the dialog. So just after we have created this dialog, which is a date picker fragment, we will set the target of this fragment. So using set target fragment, and the set target fragment is nothing but the report fragment dot this, and we just fill in our value, but later on we will get the correct. So with this line, the set target fragment, now the date picker fragment is now related to the report fragment, and the data from the date picker fragment will go to the report fragment. And as you know that when the user interacts on a mobile device, the Android system manages which fragments to be destroyed, recreation, pausing, etc. Same thing for activities. But once a relationship is established, the system will maintain the relationship whenever the user comes back. So this may be after user have received a call and then come back and wants to interact, system will make sure that the relationship is re-established. Okay, so set target fragment does that work for us. Now this sets up the link. Now let us send the data. So for this we would like to use a method which is similar to the earlier method, and this method is called activity.onActivityResult, and this is a method that the activity manager calls on the parent activity after the child activity dies. This becomes the activity manager's job. And after the activity has received the call, the activities fragment manager then calls fragment.onActivityResult on the appropriate fragment. So because in this case we are dealing with two fragments which are of the same activity, so we will try to use the same method, that is on activity result with respect to a fragment. So we will borrow it, we'll say fragment dot on activity result and call it directly on the target fragment to pass back the data. Okay, so this is same as when we passed the data back in the activity. Here we are calling it on the fragment rather than on the activity. So we have already done the set target fragment, and set target fragment uses the code that is passed, and this code we are passing, and based on this code we will take the action. So yeah, so let's go to date picker fragment and let us add few more strings, and we will just make sure that this string is identified as a unique string because we are using the intent to pass the data. So I will just say it in ac dot reply tt dot psync dot ac dot psync dot mc16 dot report intent dot date. And then we need to create the send result method just like we had created in our earlier activity, the math quiz. So here let me create it after on create dialog. This looks like a good place to create. So private void send result int result code date if get target fragment is equal to null, then do nothing, else create an intent equal to new intent, and then in that intent put extra date, the date that we have picked, and then let me put some, then get target fragment dot on activity result, get target request code result code and pass the intent. As you see that this is very similar to our first application where we have used the similar method to pass the result from one activity to another activity. Now we have sent it, and now we will have to make use of this new method. So when the user presses a new date, the data is passed, and then this data is used in the program so that we can set it up in our list, in our original list that we were seeing. In order to do that, we will have to come back, and you see that here we were saying set positive button and we were passing it a null because so far we were not handling anything here. But now we want to use this and our new method and pass it when the user selects something. So we will remove this null, and instead what we will do is we will write a listener here. So watch carefully. New dialog interface dot on click listener, and in this we will do override, and in this we will write the on click method, public void on click dialog interface dialog int w doesn't matter int year equal to mDatePicker dot get year int month equal to mDatePicker dot get month int day equal to mDatePicker dot get day of month, and then set the date equal to new Gregorian calendar year month day get time, and then we use our new method that we have just done. So activity dot result okay, and the data. So yes, so now we have done something very useful. We now know that when the set positive button is pressed, this code should take care of using our send result method to send some data. Now only thing that we are left to do it is to go into the report fragment again, retrieve the data which has been sent and use it and update, so that in the list when we come back we see the new modified date which we were not seeing so far. So let's go to the report fragment and let's implement the method on activity result. Let's override that method and that will solve our problem. So at override, this is very similar to what we did in earlier with respect to the activities. Now we are doing it to an activity result int request code int result code and the intent data. So if result code is not equal to activity dot result okay, return date equal to date. So now you will get the data. So get serializable extra date picker fragment dot extra date. Now we will set it back. So mReport dot set date and date button dot set text and report dot get date to string. Okay, so now we have sent the data, we have received the data, and we have set it up. So only thing that is left is maybe just quickly run the program and see what happens. So we go to report 2. As you can see that report 2, report 5 or report 4, any report is taking Sunday, October 2, Sunday, October 2. I will just magnify it so that you can see. So currently it is saying Sunday, October 2. Let me click, let me choose Sunday, October 10, press OK. And now you see that I see Sunday, October 10 for report number 3. And I see that it has been updated. So this is something which was not happening earlier, but now it is happening after we use the intent to pass the data from one fragment to another and from back. So the methodology was very similar to what we used when we pass data from one activity to another and get back. So that was used in the fragment, and that sort of completes this example. In this example, you learned how to use a dialog, how to set the view of that dialog, and how to pass data and receive data and use that data between two fragments. So thank you.